And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. Thank you for joining us. Civil rights groups are out with a travel advisory over the weekend like we've never seen in a while. The NAACP, League of United Latin American Citizens, and Equality Florida are warning against all minority groups making trips to Florida, saying a string of recent bills from Florida lawmakers, most notably Governor Ron DeSantis, are hostile towards certain groups. Now, the NAACP released a statement over the weekend explaining Florida is openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ plus individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other communities of color. Joining me now here on The Factor tonight to talk about it, the president of the Houston NAACP, Bishop James Dixon, and travel expert and Florida native, now calling Houston home, thank God for that small miracle, Deidre Mathis. Glad to have you all here on The Factor Uncensored. So, Bishop Dixon, why was this advisory so important?
Well, thank you for having us, Isaiah. This is important because we're at a crucial juncture and crossroads in American history where you have governments like DeSantis and the state of Florida blatantly passing public policy that is obviously discriminatory and bigoted.
And don't care.
And don't care. And the agenda is what the agenda is. It's not about what's morally correct or incorrect, or constitutionally correct or incorrect. It's about a very biased agenda by an extremist group of people who think that their superiority and supremacy has been threatened by democracy. And they're willing to destroy the principles of democracy in order to achieve their very narrow agenda. And that's what this is about. The NAACP and other organizations supporting it understand that, and so we're trying to increase the awareness of Americans, African Americans, and not just African Americans, all who are in favor of justice and equality need to stand against this kind of state action because it is spreading across the country.
Deidre, you are from Florida.
Yes.
When you hear these kinds of laws enacted in your home state, the place you call home, what is that like?
Yeah, so as a person born and raised in Florida who was college educated from Florida, I couldn't imagine, especially being an HBCU graduate, being in classes that are now defunded. I mean, our students aren't going to learn history, true history, our history. I mean, what type of education is that, you know? So to be a Floridian, it makes me sad, but I will say I don't think Texas is far behind.
And we have seen whatever happens in Texas happens in Florida, whatever happens in Florida happens in Texas.
Absolutely.
Here, we'll talk about it a little bit later with State Representative Ron Reynolds about SB 17.
Sure.
Where it has had a huge impact on minorities in colleges. But for those who are traveling to Florida, that is your area of expertise.
Right.
What would you tell them at this time? Would you say follow this advisory from the NAACP?
You know, I wouldn't, because I'm not following it myself. I'll be traveling home in a few weeks. I would just say be vigilant, be careful, be aware of your surroundings, you know, make sure you're following all laws. If you're driving at night, make sure your lights on, make sure that you're doing everything right so that you're not a target. And it's really sad to say that, you know, visiting my home state is now ill-advised. I mean, that's such a horrible, horrible thing, but I still advise people to go and just be vigilant and, you know, just remain as safe as you possibly can.
And Bishop Dixon, is this more ceremonial, or you're saying you could actually be in danger in this state?
Well, the fact is, an environment and a climate that's been established by the leadership down provokes and stimulates, in fact, inspires and encourages people at the grassroots level on the ground to act out in violent and hateful ways. We see that all across the country. It's not the governor who's going to go out and do something egregious, but the tone that the governor sets. Words matter, policies matter, and the climate matters. And it infuriates and invigorates and provokes those at the ground level to act out in violent ways. You're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, this law, SB 266 in Florida, like SB 17 here, says that there is no grounds for individuals who are black and other colors to receive fair treatment. I want to make it clear. We're not asking for an advantage.
Right.
We're asking for equal access to opportunity, which we have been denied for over 400 years in this country. People have to understand that these laws are designed to send us back toward the plantation. We got to understand Jim Crow 2.0 and understand that we've got to be vigilant. We've got to act like it's serious, because it definitely is.
It is, yeah.
And for those who may travel,
right,
what advice would you give them, Deidre, being a native Floridian? But if you're traveling there and you're saying, I still will go there, and I still encourage other people to go there, but what advice would you give them if they go there?
So the reason why I want to say is because you don't want to, Florida survives off of tourism, so you don't want to not visit and then collapse the whole industry. You know, it's not the tourism's fault industry.
Maybe sometimes that's the message they need.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know where it hurts. You know, you're absolutely right. But, you know, just making sure that you're traveling maybe in groups, making sure that you let people know where you are at all times, making sure that you understand Florida laws. So understand, you know, what is legal and what is not legal, and just make sure that you are following everything as you should, so that there's no reason for, you know, any incidents to occur while you're traveling in Florida. But I do think you can still travel there safely. I think the organization is doing this to pull eyes on the situation. That is not okay. That you guys need to listen up, because if we do all band together and we do stop traveling, we are going to hit you where it hurt, and that is your tourism dollars. And yeah, that could be very detrimental to the state of Florida.
Well, the fact is, it's unfortunate that innocent people, Floridians, will suffer the consequences because of the actions that the governor and legislators are taking. That's unfortunate, but it's a reality. We do know that until you deal with the economics, often people are not paying attention. There's been meetings, there's been messages, there's been press conferences, there's been all kinds of efforts to get the governor and the legislators to understand this is going too far. And now the NAACP and other organizations are saying we have no other option but to do things to get your attention by affecting the economics. And when we do travel there, we are spending money that creates tax dollars going back to the state that's oppressing people and setting a standard for the nation that none of us can afford.
All right. And of course, we know Disney just killed their $1 billion expansion there with their campus.
Absolutely.